So I don't quite remember the title of the class, but it was something around, creative thinking or critical creativity. And our teacher was a teacher that I had never had before named John O'Keefe. And the only way I can describe John is almost as your kind of stereotypical movie villain, particularly if it's like a gangster film. And I could just remember there was only about 7 of us sitting in this kind of small square room, rectangular room, and people were poking their heads in the classroom in and out. This was sort of the case at San Francisco State University with elective classes. People would sort of come in and peek their head in and see if they wanted to be a part of this, and very few people were being a part of this. And a lot of that had to do with the way that John was very brash and very out loud and very in your face. And he had kind of, I just remember all these lines on his forehead and eyebrows that sort of popped off of his face and eyes themselves that kind of came out you. And he was chewing gum. I mean, I'm just destroying gum would be a better word. And as I noticed that gum, and it was popping pieces in his mouth. And initially it was like, these are like chiclets, but they were actually nicotine gum or Nicorette. And so he had this kind of intensity just in his presence. And so a lot of people were really questioning. I remember there was only, like I said, about 7 of us in this class, and we were looking around at each other, and all we could really hear is this kind of chewing and seething, and then looking at one another, and all of us sort of feeling nervous, particularly when the first thing he says to us is, I want you all gave us all a note card and said, I want you all to write down on this note card, not your name and what your interests are and blah, blah, blah. I want you to write down on this note card, what is it something that you don't like to do? Um, which was very an open question and strange, but I think we were all pretty intimidated, or I'll speak for myself. I was like, okay, I'm just going to put down what I don't like to do. And I wrote down that I didn't like to perform in front of people. And sure enough, as we went around the group and John collected those cards and it came to me and he said, so you don't like to perform in front of people? And he said, guess what? You're going to be performing for this class every week if you stay in this class. And I immediately felt my face sort of get warm, right? I felt that kind of, not like a pit in myself, but it was sort of a tightening in my stomach, and the sort of hair on the, on my arms kind of like come to attention and come to life. But instantly kind of said, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm not going to just back out. I'm not going to back down. I was scared. I was terrified, to be honest. And he would give me sort of 5 things. He would say, I want you to pick a color. No, actually, he would give them to me. So he said, I want you to, and I remember the first ones were the color red, usually a material. So he said glass. And then he sort of picked around, it was actually the word life. And next week I was in class and I was taking a red ball and throwing it off of the back of the room and having it bounce back at me and trying to catch it and not always doing it. And I took a glass, just like an empty pint glass, and cracked a raw egg into it and drank it as I threw the ball against the back wall. Now, ridiculous, sure. And if you would have asked me, would I ever been doing something like that the week before? No way. And nor would I want to have. Now, I stuck with that class, and for whatever reason, obviously this experience stuck with me, and it's not for whatever reason. It isn't just this matter of sort of confronting your fears. For me, it's something more than that. It's something more about paying attention to the things that are in front of you or the things that you're already there and looking at them in different ways, understanding them as possibilities rather than just as some small thing. So each day when I got my color, or each week, I should say, when I got my color and I got my material, I would be looking around my own apartment, or I'd be looking around at things on my walk home, or thinking to myself on the walk home, could the word life mean to me? How could I think about life? How could I represent that? Or glass, like what kind of glass do I want to use? A window? Do I want to use an actual glass? Do I want to maybe, I know glass is made from sand. Do I want to bring in sand? So it really allowed me to look at things differently, and not just in a dramatic way. It didn't have to be dramatic. It was really about creating and energizing things that were right in front of me. And I think that's something important, to be able to sort of snap yourself out of routine and have new perspective on the most familiar things.